27%. Consider this eye-opening statistic for a moment. 27% represents the exact portion of every kilogram of uranium fuel that powered the 93 commercial nuclear reactors active across the United States throughout 2025. It all traced back to one single nation, one incredibly ancient rock layer, and precisely two deep underground extraction sites. Both locations sit up in northern Saskatchewan. Both are fully owned and run by the very same Canadian firm. Both deliver what stands as the richest uranium ore found anywhere on our planet. 27% of the fuel that kept every reactor at Diablo Canyon humming, every unit at Vautal operating, every reactor at Palo Verde going strong as the biggest nuclear facility in the country, every plant within the Tennessee Valley Authority network, and every reactor covered by the power purchase deals that Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta have inked to energize their cutting-edge artificial intelligence data centers. The whole commercial nuclear power sector here in the United States, which runs the largest collection of such facilities anywhere in the world, relies heavily on uranium pulled from just two mines in a Canadian region that many Americans would have trouble finding on a standard map. The mines in question are McArthur River and Cigar Lake. The region is Saskatchewan. The firm is Cameco Corporation, with its headquarters in Saskatoon. The rock formation is the Athabasca Basin, a sedimentary structure roughly 500 million years old that holds uranium ore grades reaching 100 times the worldwide average, not 10 times higher, a full 100 times. By any industry standard you apply, this deposit ranks as the single most valuable uranium resource on Earth. The United States Department of Energy has recognized its importance since the 1980s. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission has followed this reliance dating back to the 1970s. Every utility company managing commercial nuclear reactors across the United States has built Saskatchewan uranium into long-term fuel supply agreements that resist easy changes. This reliance runs deep and is fixed in place. It stems directly from geological conditions, and from every practical operational viewpoint, it forms a built-in element of the closely integrated North American nuclear fuel system that has supported American energy stability ever since the Atoms for Peace initiative first took shape in the 1950s. Please hit the bell icon and subscribe my channel for daily updates. Now shift the timeline forward to May of 2024. President Joe Biden approved a measure backed by both political parties that prohibited imports of enriched uranium from Russia, a fuel type that had earlier covered about 20% of the entire American nuclear reactor network. The prohibition went live 90 days after signing. By August 11th of 2024, every utility operating a nuclear reactor in the country was locked in by necessity to replace Russian supplies with other options. Exactly two realistic large-scale alternatives exist. Canada stands as one of them. Kazakhstan represents the second. Yet Kazakhstan finds itself exposed to possible indirect penalties as of 2025 because of its business partnerships with Russian state-backed producers, which places 43% of global uranium output into a category vulnerable on the political front. That effectively leaves Canada. It leaves Saskatchewan. It leaves Cameco. And it leaves McArthur River along with Cigar Lake. This development carries far greater significance than any individual tariff disagreement Washington has pursued during the past 14 months. In May of 2025, the Trump administration issued 4 executive directives designed to speed up the growth of American nuclear energy. Those directives approved plans for as much as 200 gigawatts of additional nuclear capacity by 2050. They accelerated approval processes for innovative reactor technologies. They freed up $2 billion in congressional funding for building domestic uranium processing capabilities. And they created a guiding policy that the administration itself described, and I quote, as a way to end Russian influence over American clean energy. Yet those directives left one critical practical question unanswered. Where exactly would the necessary uranium come from? The clear answer for 2025 pointed directly to Cameco. The same holds true for 2026. And the outlook remains unchanged through roughly 2035. No workable substitute source of natural uranium exists that could replace Saskatchewan output at the volumes required by the American nuclear network, on the operating schedules these reactors follow, or at any cost level competitive with current supply agreements. In November of 2024, responding to the ban on Russian uranium, Russian authorities placed temporary limits on enriched uranium shipments to the United States. Those limits caused no immediate day-to-day disruptions because American utilities had built up fuel reserves ahead of time, but they verified what every nuclear fuel expert had already grasped. The Russian supply stream into American reactors had been severed permanently. The replacement, driven by how the system is structured, would need to flow from Canada and Kazakhstan. By spring of 2026, the overall situation had grown so evident that even the Trump administration's Department of Energy could no longer mask it behind mere political language. American nuclear reactors require uranium from Canada. Advanced reactor projects in America need it as well. The artificial intelligence data centers responsible for the largest surge in electricity demand in modern American history also depend on it. Meanwhile, the Canadian company providing that uranium, Cameco Corporation, announced in 2025 a 22% cut in production at McArthur River, caused by delays shifting to new mining zones. A 22% drop at the world's most vital uranium operation, announced during the second quarter of 2025, precisely when Donald Trump was finalizing executive directives calling for the United States to triple its nuclear scale. It happened at the exact moment Russian uranium flows ended for good. It aligned with American utilities, beginning the largest cycle of long-term nuclear fuel contracts in more than 4 decades. Supplies were growing tighter. Demand was expanding rapidly. And the Canadian firm positioned at the heart of the entire system was following its own business schedule, directing output toward the buyers and agreements that delivered the strongest future commercial advantages. Now consider the actual shape of those agreements, since this contractual dimension is something most American reporting has overlooked. In 2024, Cameco secured roughly 119 million pounds of uranium through extended supply pacts with utility clients. The largest individual commitments within those pacts went to American utilities needing to swap Russian fuel for non-Russian sources. The agreements span multiple years. They incorporate price adjustment mechanisms and guaranteed volumes. In corporate finance language, they are firmly secured, yet they leave the core supply limitation unchanged. Cameco can deliver only what it is capable of extracting, and Cameco's extraction volume, shaped by the natural conditions in Saskatchewan and the practical operations at McArthur River and Cigar Lake, carries hard boundaries that no administrative or political action can expand. Those agreements also leave open the details of the next negotiation round, which for many utilities arrives in 2026 and 2027. At that point, uranium prices will be shaped by global market forces that include new competitors vying for the same limited supplies. China currently operates 30 reactors under construction and has another 194 in planning or proposal stages. The European Union is reversing long-held policies of nuclear reduction. Japan is restarting Kashiwazaki Kariwa, the planet's largest nuclear facility by net electrical output. The Czech Republic has approved a $19 billion nuclear growth program. The United Kingdom has committed $18 billion to Sizewell C, South Korea, continues expanding its commercial nuclear fleet. Vietnam is reviving its previously halted nuclear initiative. Saudi Arabia is launching its first commercial nuclear projects. Every one of these programs demands uranium. All require suppliers that are politically dependable and geologically secure. and all compete as buyers for the same limited Saskatchewan production that the United States has centered its entire post-Russian energy approach around. The Athabasca Basin will not yield more uranium in 2026 than it did in 2025. On any realistic commercial schedule, it will not generate enough uranium to meet all projected global needs through 2035. The World Nuclear Association's November 2025 fuel assessment noted that timelines for developing new uranium mines are lengthening instead of shortening, with projections now ranging from 10 to 20 years from early exploration to first output. Any new mine starting in the late 2030s would contribute nothing in practical terms to the shortage already present in the late 2020s and early 2030s. That shortage remains fixed by structural conditions. Here is the single most telling detail in this entire account, the one that reveals the true depth of this reliance in a manner no amount of clever framing can dismiss. In 2024, Cameco Corporation, holding its 49% stake in Westinghouse Electric Company, formed a partnership with the United States federal government to construct at least $80 billion worth of new commercial nuclear reactors across the country. $80 billion. The reactors will use AP1000 designs, currently the leading Generation 3, plus pressurized water reactor model in active commercial service. The partnership is arranged as a long-term joint effort involving the U.S. government, Brookfield Renewable, and Cameco. That reflects the practical reality on the ground. The United States federal government, even while the Trump administration conducts a public trade conflict with Canada, has at the same time pledged $80 billion to a collaboration with a Canadian-influenced company for building the next wave of American commercial nuclear reactors. The partnership is formally recorded. It carries official signatures, and in operational terms, it represents the primary pathway for the U.S. Department of Energy to implement the executive directives Donald Trump signed in May of 2025. The inconsistency stands out clearly. The Trump administration is treating Canada as a rival trading partner in tariff matters while simultaneously relying on it as the foundational element of American nuclear energy growth. During the same week, Howard Lutnick labeled Mark Carney irrational on the campaign stage, the Westinghouse Cameco Brookfield partnership was progressing toward formal commercial steps under the Department of Energy structure. This inconsistencies cannot be resolved practically because abandoning the Westinghouse partnership would mean abandoning the executive directives that define the May 2025 nuclear strategy. And those directives cannot advance without Cameco. Therefore, the Trump administration cannot maintain any ongoing position that treats Canada as an adversary on uranium matters without undermining the central strategic energy goal of its second term. The influence held by Prime Minister Mark Carney in this area is embedded in the system itself. He has not needed to state it publicly. He has not issued threats. He has not launched retaliation. The influence arises from corporate ownership arrangements, binding contracts, and unchangeable geological facts that no executive directive can alter. And throughout the unfolding trade tensions, the Canadian government and Canadian uranium sector have moved forward with careful effectiveness. In 2023, Cameco reached an agreement with Energoatom, Ukraine's state nuclear utility, to meet 100% of uranium hexafluoride needs for the Rivne, Khmelnytsky, and South Ukraine nuclear power plants. Those three facilities contain 8 commercial reactors previously dependent on Russian uranium, and now supplied through Cameco contracts using Canadian uranium. Deliveries started in 2025. In 2024, Cameco expanded supply agreements with utilities in Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Finland, all shifting away from Russian Rosatom contracts. In 2025, Cameco renewed and enlarged its involvement in the Sapporo 5 Strategic Partnership, a 5-nation framework with the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, France, and Japan that features combined government investments over $4.2 billion to develop a non-Russian nuclear fuel network. And in 2026, the Carney government officially launched the Canada Strong Funds with its $25 billion starting endowment. Lists critical minerals as one of 5 priority areas for investment. Uranium qualifies as a critical mineral under every relevant classification. The Canadian government's domestic investment framework now aligns directly with the commercial growth of Cameco and the Athabasca Basin uranium sector. This structure is active, financed, and advancing openly for Washington to observe, yet Washington possesses no built-in means to interfere. Now let me outline the 3 possible paths for the next 18 to 36 months. Scenario 1 carries a 15% probability. The Trump administration acknowledges the built-in dependence on Canadian uranium and clearly removes it from any tariff increase plans. The COSMA review continues with revised sectoral tariffs on lumber, dairy, steel, aluminum, and autos, while keeping explicit uranium exemptions in place. The Westinghouse-Cameco partnership stays on schedule. The $80 billion reactor construction program advances. American utilities keep receiving Cameco-supplied natural uranium under current contracts. The relationship between the two countries settles at a new lower tension level that formally recognizes Canadian uranium as a strategic item outside tariff rules. That path offers the most positive outlook. I assign it only 15% because recent months of the Trump administration's approach show little sign of institutional willingness to accept that an entire commodity category is exempt from leverage due to structural factors. Scenario 2, at 60% probability and the most probable outcome. The Trump administration sets the uranium issue aside in public statements. The COSMA review reaches July 1st without a full agreement. Uranium keeps flowing according to existing contractual terms. The Westinghouse-Cameco partnership proceeds on its multi-year schedule. American nuclear utilities continue receiving Saskatchewan uranium with no operational interruptions. The Cameco production reduction at McArthur River creates upward pressure on global uranium prices, which raises long-term contracting costs for American utilities entering new cycles in 2026 and 2027. Those higher costs pass through to American electricity ratepayers, data center operators, and industrial users of nuclear-generated power. By the end of 2027, this pattern of dependence will appear clearly in every major nuclear industry publication. Reliance on Canadian uranium will become a politically recognized element of the U.S. energy economy that no future administration can challenge credibly without triggering direct operational effects on the existing American reactor fleet. Scenario 3, with 25% probability, involves faster developments. The Trump administration, seeking leverage on vital commodities, rolls out a broad critical minerals tariff package that includes uranium, potash, nickel, cobalt, and rare earth elements. The American nuclear industry responds with the same determination the agricultural sector showed against potash tariffs in March 2025. The Nuclear Energy Institute submits formal objections. The Edison Electric Institute files its own. Republican governors from states with large nuclear capacity, including Texas, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina, submit objections. The Westinghouse-Cameco partnership stands out as a visible counterpoint to the overall tariff approach. The Trump administration withdraws the uranium portion of the critical minerals tariff package within weeks. That withdrawal serves as documented proof that leverage does not exist in this area. By the end of 2026, the pattern becomes fully evident. Canadian uranium joins Canadian potash on the list of commodities that cannot face tariffs without producing immediate operational effects on American industrial sectors, viewed as core political bases by the Republican Party. 3 possible paths over 18 to 36 months, all revolving around one Canadian province, 2 underground mines, and 1 geological formation shaped over 500 million years. 27% of every kilogram of uranium powering 93 American commercial reactors, plus one Canadian Prime Minister, who through a measured strategy of restraint is applying the most profound natural resource imbalance in the entire bilateral energy relationship to maintain a negotiating position that open confrontation could never achieve as cleanly. Donald Trump signed executive directives in May of 2025, calling for the United States to triple its nuclear capacity by 2050. He did so with full public emphasis and ceremony. He positioned them as the heart of American energy self-sufficiency, as the decisive break from Russian sway over American clean energy, and as the foundation for the coming decade of economic strength. 6 months later, the $80 billion partnership carrying out those directives is anchored by a company under Canadian control. The uranium that will power every new reactor built under that partnership will come from 2 mines in Saskatchewan. The fuel cycle supporting artificial intelligence data centers, industrial reshoring, the electrification of American transportation, and the broader energy transition defining the second Trump term rests structurally on a Canadian commodity that the Carney government has designated as a strategic critical mineral inside its own domestic investment framework. Trade conflicts involve many fronts, but the uranium front is already resolved. Not through Canadian counter-moves, not through Carney's public statements, not through Saskatchewan provincial actions, but through the natural layout of the Athabasca Basin that position the planet's largest concentration of high-grade uranium reserves beneath one Canadian province. That natural layout ties every American commercial reactor operating today, every reactor scheduled for construction from now until 2035, and every American artificial intelligence data center drawing steady baseload power from nuclear sources to a single Canadian supply network. No executive directive can replace it. No tariff can interfere without causing immediate effects for American electricity ratepayers. And no political posturing can override the facts. The vital connection runs from McArthur River and Cigar Lake to 93 American reactors. Cameco holds that connection. The Carney government is strengthening it further. And the Westinghouse, Cameco Brookfield partnership structured by the United States Department of Energy itself is protecting it. The next 18 months represent the window leading to the next major American utility long-term contracting cycle. It is the period when the real-world effects of Canadian uranium leverage will register clearly in American electricity prices, data center build schedules, and the political thinking of the Republican Senate caucus. 18 months from now, the Trump administration will confront a choice between the executive directives signed in May of 2025 and the trade conflict framework aimed at Canada. That choice will be practical. It will be visible to everyone. And it will prove impossible to hide behind political showmanship because the uranium has already been secured through contracts. The reactors have already been planned. The partnership has already been finalized. The supply connection has been adjusted and secured according to Cameco's conditions, on Cameco's schedule, and within Cameco's unalterable geological reality. Please hit the bell icon and subscribe my channel for daily updates.